everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Poker News podcast. We are preemptively shooting this episode because I am partying with my grandma, and this is my guest bedroom. For those
I've been there, done that. Been there, done that.
We're gonna hit it pretty hard.
In Sarah's guest bedroom?
Yeah, so we're in my guest bedroom, and this is where grandma's gonna be sleeping.
I meant partying with her grandma. Partying with her grandma is what I meant. But it was in that bedroom, ironically enough.
Oh my
gosh.
Wow.
When Gigi gets here, you are going to be in big trouble when I tell her about all the things you said.
Wait, her name is Gigi?
It stands for great grandma.
I mean, oh well, I was going to say like that. We should get Jeff on that as a sponsorship with Gigi Poker, right?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good idea. I'm sure
always
she
thinking.
Yeah, she is going to be here next week hanging out with me and the baby. And I thought all her stuff will probably be in the background. I didn't want to deal with that. So we're shooting this episode a little bit early. We have Steven Pique, poker operations manager at the Sahara, as our guest this week to talk a little bit about, what the poker scene is like right now in Las Vegas. I think actually it's really exciting when we talk about Resorts World, for example, having a poker room. It seems like there's sort of a resurgence of poker in Vegas, and this is one of the only boutique-ish hotels, which Stephen will tell us more about. Now, Jeff, you are in fact with us in Texas. Welcome, yeehaw, welcome home. How's it going at the Lone
Thank
Star?
you. It is good to be back in a great state of Texas. The Lonestar Poker Series is going very well. We are streaming just about every night. We just started last night on Poker Go's YouTube channel. It was just good to cover a live poker tournament and call a live poker tournament again. I hear whispers, I hear rumors that Sarah Herring will make an appearance at this Lonestar Poker Series. I heard the podcast last week where she was taking ridiculous and absurd shots at me. And Chad, I'm a little disappointed with you also for not standing up for me, as I've asked Sarah multiple times if she would be in Houston for the Lonestar Poker Series. Looking forward to seeing her at the Lonestar Poker Series. She said she would be there at the Lonestar Poker Series, and yet, still take shots at me for not wanting to drive an hour and a half out to her home to see her.
What's it with you poker commentators getting upset when other people don't stand up for
Oh boy. I
was like, oh, he teed it up. Is
shouldn't
Chad
have said
gonna
anything.
hit it?
Shouldn't have. Yeah, I love that one up for Chad. That's pretty good. Pretty
well,
good.
We missed you. Great. We missed you, Jeff. And I see your videos and we have photos of you on PokerNews because we're doing updates from that Lonestar Poker Series. It looks like you're having fun. It looks like it's a great fun stop. And I've been to some Lonestar Poker Series in the past, so I'm having a little FOMO. I do wish that I was there. It looks like a lot of fun, and I hope you're enjoying it.
Thank you. I am. You can come down for the main $1,300 buy-in, $1 million guarantee. And I only dusted off 7 bullets in the kickoff event, just 7 without a day 2 bag, only 7, just 7.
Oh my gosh. First of all, how rich. And second of all, Jeff, you are terrible at poker.
Yeah. Yep. We've come to both realizations, I think, throughout the course of the last couple of years together.
Just save it. Just save the run good for a different event. Let's just hold out for that. All right, well, we will just get right into things. Jeff's internet sucks. For those who haven't noticed, he's at a hotel, and I thought it was Chad, but it's not. It's Jeff, and it's making a really
damn it, sorry,
weird little sound. But maybe if you mute yourself, it won't make that sound. I'm not sure. Just mute yourself for most of the podcast if you can. Okay, great. So this is a huge story, guys, which I kind of figured, even though we're shooting this podcast a little bit early, this is something that we're going to be talking about for the next 6 months, more than likely. So totally took me by surprise. I have to imagine that Chad, who has the inner workings of the WSOP, like in his ear constantly, was not surprised by this information. And maybe Jeff wasn't either, because he's so deeply ingrained in what's happening with the, BTS at the, Poker Go and the poker productions, etc. But the WSOP is leaving ESPN and moving on to CBS Sports. And this has some, I think, interesting implications. This is going to mean a few different things for us as poker fans and poker watchers. let's just, Chad, tell me first of all, did this take you as surprising as it did me?
No, it didn't. And here's why is if you look, look, the WSOP has been on ESPN for a long time. Even before Chris Moneymaker, it was there. That's really when we mostly remember it though, right? The big poker boom, the 2003 WSOP, those old school episodes, from 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then in the kind of 2010 range, it shifted. It's still WSOP on ESPN, but we kind of got a new angle, a new production crew and what have you. And that's kind of went all the way up until 2020. But if you look throughout those years, you do see the glitz and glamour of poker, if you will, kind of fade away. Back in 2003, 4, 5, 6, at the height of the poker boom, ESPN couldn't get enough poker. And then in recent years, it was just a little bit of poker, right? They seem to always cut back. They do more live streams than they would edited TV shows. And then, the swan song was kind of last year back, I guess it was earlier this year when they technically debuted, but the 2020 WSOP episodes from December, we were all there in Vegas when they filmed them. They aired once on ESPN, no repeats. And what that tells me was that this might have been a little bit different arrangement between the WSOP and ESPN. Perhaps the former paid to have these episodes at least aired on ESPN. That's kind of how I imagine it happened, because there were no repeats. They aired once, that was it. Now you can get them on Poker Go. If this was content that ESPN had paid for and really wanted, then they would continue to, repeat them and at least get a little more play out of them. And that wasn't the case this year. And so here's what's happened. Yeah, they're done with ESPN. They're moving on to CBS Sports. Now, this is still great. CBS is a big network. They have a great reach, not as great as ESPN, but it still should be pretty good. And it's not exactly unprecedented. If you remember at the 2019 WSOP, they had some WSOP events streaming on CBS All Access, which is the subscription-based app that CBS owned. It is now since switched to Paramount Plus. So there is a little bit of a relationship there. I think that Poker Go probably helped facilitate this deal or this relationship a little bit. And a lot of people on social media, the reaction was like, well, this was a bad choice. It wasn't a choice, right? Like the WSOP and ESPN's relationship had come to an end. And, I don't think the WSOP could have continued to live there. They were kicked out, so to speak. This is my understanding of things. So they needed a new home. They needed to find a new place to go. And I actually was surprised, not that they left or, separated from ESPN. I was surprised they found a partner in CBS Sports. I just kind of thought, like, when I first heard this, somebody told me about it, I'm like, so they're just going to go to Poker Go? And they're like, no, they're still going to a major network. So kudos to them in my thinking for them finding this partnership. And this isn't unprecedented either. If you go all the way back to the 1970s, CBS was the first to air any sort of WSOP content with their CBS Sports Spectacular, as it was called back in those days on primetime TV. So it really is digging very deep into WSOP history to find that little tidbit, but there is precedent for WSOP on CBS.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that insight that you had clearly before this info was announced. I really appreciate you giving us the lowdown and the scoop so our audience can know what's happening. We can really get on the in. I hope you hear me dripping with sarcasm. His face isn't even changing at all.
What do you mean? That is good information.
You were like, hey, and then someone told me that this was going to happen and that they were still going with a major network, but I don't remember hearing that from you until now.
Oh,
anyways,
no. Well, so that's how you get this information, Sarah, is you get the confidential information.
Live on your little island.
You don't leak it, right?
Okay.
You don't leak it, because once you leak it, then they don't trust you and give you that information anymore. So
Yeah,
I usually do find out a few things. It varies, but a little in advance so that we can get our ducks in a row editorially, so we can get news out there and prepared and such.
Yeah, sure. No, it's fine. Our audience
it's called
just
embargo,
hates
to be embargoed.
you like I do. But anyway, so Jeff, it's interesting because I actually, when I first heard this announcement, was wondering if this was going to, obviously Poker Productions has had, I guess I don't fully understand all of the inner workings of what's going on, but I thought that Poker Productions and ESPN had a very close relationship. And this was because basically the Poker Productions people are the ESPN crew, so to speak, when we're shooting the World Series of Poker. So I was actually excited to see that it's still going to be Poker Go. But as someone who's kind of in the deep inner workings of, especially I think the staffing and the talent, do you have any juicy insights as to what this could mean for sort of the faces that we're used to seeing on the WSOP scene? He's frozen, you guys.
I think he's in deep in thought.
Yeah. So I'll keep my point short since I know my internet sucks. Can you hear me at least? Yes. Okay. Fantastic. I'll be very quick and hopefully the internet works. So Poker Go has effectively acquired Poker Productions. Poker Productions was Maury Eskandani's company. Poker Go, owned by Kerry Katz, and Poker took Poker Productions in. So now Maury is the president of Poker Go, effectively. So this deal was between CBS Sports and Poker Go to act as the television partners for the World Series of Poker. So I think that this is a very good thing. Chad mentioned, Paramount Plus, the streaming service that CBS has, that will be important for the preliminary bracelet events. It'll be great for Poker Go subscribers. They'll get a lot more live World Series of Poker coverage. As far as, who we will see, who we won't see, I'm pretty sure we'll see my best friends in the world, Lon McCarron and Norman Chad, back again for the main event. That's what Lon tweeted. I don't really have any inside info to say that that's right or wrong. So I just go with Lon on this one. So I think it'll be Lon and Norman, but I also think this is a good time to kind of, relaunch the main, go with some new graphics, some new music, a new set, and just ramp things up for CBS. And I'll mute myself before you guys, get too annoyed with my freezing.
Actually, it was kind of awesome because you're basically like on 2x half the time. And I like the style. Okay, well, sticking with the vein of the World Series of Poker, the World Series of Poker also finally released their official summer schedule. It looks not dissimilar to last year. Chad, briefly, thoughts, opinions, anything that stands out to you?
It is largely a cookie cutter layout as it was last year. It's going to run the whole month of July. However, there are going to be 33 bracelet events as opposed to 31 of last year. So 33 bracelets in 32 days. That's because there's going to be one event on August 1st. And then there is also on July 25th, 2 bracelets being awarded. It's the only double bracelet day. Otherwise, there's going to be one bracelet every day throughout. And the $1,000 No Limit Hold'em Championship will be on July 31st. There are a few Pot Limit Omaha events. Other than that, it's your all No Limit Hold'em, kind of like last year. We all know the software on WSOP.com doesn't do the mixed games. And so, it's fine, I guess is my thinking on it. I had actually more fun reporting last year's bracelet events than I expected. There were good storylines that came out of it. Jeff, I know you were doing a lot of streams and whatnot. And so there's a lot of good content that was coming out of it. I think it's fine. I like it. I'm not surprised after the success of last year's bracelet events. I figured they would do something similar. And so they found a recipe that seemed to work. So why not bake that cake again?
Do you think, Jeff, what do you think the reaction will be? I mean, I feel like now there's so much hype about the actual World Series of Poker happening again live. Do you think this is going to impact the numbers, the attention, the content that's focused on the WSOP online?
I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, we might see a little bit of a drop off in comparison to attendance numbers from last year, considering that we'll have live tournament series going on right now, or not right now, but throughout the month of July at the Wynn, at the Venetian, I'm assuming at a Caesars property as well. To go along with Chad's point, the schedule is fine. I mean, I mentioned, I think a month ago on the show, that this would be a pretty drastic disappointment if 2 things didn't happen for the summer. Number one, that Pennsylvania wasn't able to join New Jersey and Nevada, which clearly Pennsylvania has not been able to join yet. There is a a little statement in the press release, more information could be available pending regulatory approval. Number two is if they didn't have the new software in place, this Poker 8 that 888 uses overseas, to incorporate some new events where they could have a bunch of day one flights, leading up to day two, and they could have these themes, and to just have a bunch of one-day tournaments again is brutal. I'm not blaming the World Series of Poker directly. I know that they want these things in place more than anybody, but it's clearly a disappointment to see that kind of a schedule when the potential of a really cool online format, much like the international version, could have been available to them. So I'm curious, like you are, Sarah, on the number. If I had to guess, I think we'll see just a very slight fall off from last year.
Agreed. Well, while we're on the subject of Las Vegas, I want to take the opportunity to talk to Steven Pique, who is the poker operations manager at the Sahara. Now, the Sahara, there was an OG Sahara, which was one of my favorite places to go on the Strip. That should come as no surprise to everyone that knows that I like really old, weird steakhouses and things such as the Rat Pack and Elvis. I was very disappointed when the Sahara shut down, although I did go to their auction and get a couple of little treasures, which I still have. It then was turned into the SLS, I believe, which was gorgeous, like so gorgeous. I stayed there a few times to see. But I don't know what they were doing with their marketing or exactly what was happening, but it was attracting a very seedy element for sure. It was definitely a hip hop crowd. I don't know how to say it. It was very gangsta when I was there, and lots of, it surprised me with how just gorgeous and beautiful the venue was. That this would be the direction that it would go. It was like very heavy in like the club kind of scene, and not surprisingly, it did not pan out. It did not stay the SLS, and the Sahara, it is once again a Sahara, and they've made a lot of really cool changes. I think they've innovated a lot of things to meet the sort of brand and the style and what we think of when we think of the old traditional Sahara and Vegas and this sort of emerging downtown scene. Now, so many casinos, and we talked with Steven a little bit about this. We know in Vegas, a lot of the smaller poker rooms have shut down, and it's sad because I think there's something to be gained from these really big, gigantic rooms, which I know we're all looking forward to, in Resorts World or Aria. But some people are just going to feel more comfortable in a slightly smaller space with like maybe slightly less people, maybe the tournament directors, etc. And that's definitely my speed. So I was really excited to hear about another poker room that's available, that's accessible, that has just a different vibe and a different tone. And we'll get into this interview with Steven Pique to find out a little bit more about what's going down at the Sahara Poker Room. And this interview is sponsored by Elite Chip Care. Don't waste money purchasing expensive, labor-intensive chip cleaning systems that ultimately can't keep up with your volume of chips. Elite Chip Care's cleaning system is easily set up in your card room or casino, and their experienced professional staff does all the work so you don't have to. Their portable system cleans and sanitizes up to 150,000 chips per day for just pennies each. Elite Chip Care uses a gentle but thorough process of ultrasonics that eliminates the need for harsh chemicals and detergents and leaves your chips clean, smooth, and odor-free. To learn more, visit elitechipcare.com. And welcome to the show, Steven Pique. I am joined by Steven Pique, the poker operations manager of the Sahara Las Vegas, which is gorgeous, by the way. I was intending on staying there. Unfortunately, I got trapped at the Rio in December, which was terrible and nothing was open. And I was really depressed, but seeing the rooms at the Sahara really impressed me. I was so surprised. So Steven, first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Greatly appreciate it.
So, I think I'm going to try to focus this episode of the podcast on what's happening in poker in the United States. And I think it's a really exciting time because there is actually a lot of things happening. And just seeing the, 10-year anniversary of Black Friday, we were kind of reflecting on what's happened over the course of the last decade. And I actually feel more hopeful now than I have really in 10 years. And live poker is also a huge part of that. As sad as the, COVID experience has been, I think for poker, as we get back into this, it is just hugely showcased the desire and the love that people have for poker, that we're seeing all these record-breaking fields. Now, that being said, as a former Las Vegan, we've also seen in the course of the last decade a ton of live poker rooms shut down, which has been very depressing. And some of my favorite places to go and play don't even exist anymore. So talk to me about being a Sahara poker room and, being one of the, I think, few places anymore, even in Vegas, that's prepared to offer awesome poker.
You mentioned it in the wake of such a strange and tumultuous year, to have something really cool come out of it. A brand new room on the Las Vegas Strip. Got that same kind of luxurious feel of an Aria or a Win, just on a kind of boutique style level. We're really lucky. We opened right before the situation got really serious. So obviously we had a little break we didn't prepare for, but we've been open since June, and the response, like you mentioned, it's been steadily rising. People are just getting more and more comfortable and, wanting to venture out. And you're right. I think even though, it was a struggle the year for a lot of people, that, they're just aching, you can tell, to get back out again and mix it up and just get back out to the tables again. You can see it kind of get better and better. The response in Las Vegas is, the tourism is rising as the day goes on and getting busier and busier, which is it's a good thing. So yeah.
It's a great thing. And I, as someone who frequented a lot of the poker rooms and was definitely a face in the low stakes tournament scene, if you can say there's such a thing. One of the things that, I think there's a certain clientele, a certain vibe, a certain feel. Every room has like a different, it gives you a different flavor. And I think who it attracts is also part of what makes you end up staying there, right? So even, actually, I shouldn't say this, probably it's terrible, but sometimes the smell at the Aria is like, I think I had a bad experience at the MGM, like a different time or something, but like the smell at the Aria sometimes makes me like run for the hills. I don't know what it is, but I love some of the smaller poker rooms that I used to frequent had like so many regulars that just always showed up and were like supportive, I think, and kind of like loving of each other. And there wasn't always just this like super ruthless, cutthroat 1-3 vibe, which sounds crazy. And I hope there's not.
No,
So tell me, having not been there, like, tell me a little bit about the vibe of the clientele that you guys are finding coming back.
Sure. And you're right. I don't know if it's just tying together poor memories with a property. I don't have any about RA specifically. It's a nice room, but you're right that we wanted to get away from that feeling of just the high volume room, that it's almost like a never ending thoroughfare of people, right? So they've kind of lost that obligation to just get down on that really just simple customer service level, just offering excellent guest service and just doing every portion of that piece right. So that's kind of lost in some of the bigger properties, I think. So, and you're right, it's the people that we filled that we put in this room, from the guests all the way down to the staffing, the dealers that we put in. We asked that they be not only friendly and accommodating, but just really sharp, and the ability to deal every niche game that you can think of. So that kind of paints us as the kind of official like mixed game haven for players in town, which is kind of cool. Once or twice a week, we have just a regular meeting place for these guys to get together. It's mostly industry people, dealers, people that are in service, but quite a few new people also. The group is just so amazing and so easy to deal with, and it's nothing all like you would think when you're trying to pick up a new game in the pit or pick up a new game at one of the other larger properties, where just that sense of I don't belong here. These guys are a little bit too serious for me, like that not at all. Like especially the game on Fridays, they play every single game that you could think of, so it's tough to kind of pick up all the different the different games, but they're really accommodating, so it's a good group to deal with. But you're right, it's putting the people in some of these smaller boutique style rooms, how I describe it. It's more homey, right? It feels different. Like there's more time for us to spend with each individual person, and they definitely they let us know that when we're doing an amazing job, and I appreciate being able to speak to certain people a couple times a week and stay up to date on some of that. I spent a lot of time in the room, especially in June when we got off the ground again. I had lots of time to be on the floor and interacting with guests, and making sure some of our new hires and new guests new dealers were selling in. So I greatly appreciated that time. It was a great time for me to kind of get down on the supervisor level again and get to know everybody, and it really helped kind of shape the business. So yeah, you're right. I love it. I love the kind of the not so grandiose type room, just a smaller room where we can get together, and it's more targeted. Everybody knows one another. It's like a Cheers type poker room.
Yes. And I think unfortunately so many of the rooms that have closed are those ones that had really some character and who people felt safe to come play at. And I think especially when we're looking at a lot of even tourists, like a lot of tourists are just not they're going to feel intimidated, they're going to feel nervous and uncomfortable in certain spots. And so I think being able to offer this is really huge, and something that's like a huge gap that was really missing for the last few years in Vegas. And it's so funny because, talking about spreading mixed games during the WSOP, for example, when everybody and their dog is in town and all the media and people want to play mixed games, nobody's spreading them ever. We would literally have to beg different places, like, can we buy a table from you? We will deal our own games. But finding dealers who are really competent, to deal that many games is pretty amazing. I can't imagine what the hiring process was like for you guys.
Oh, we got lucky. Back in January, when we first got off the ground, January of 2020, we had maybe 70 dealers show up that were anxious to come aboard, because you said it yourself, in a time where rooms are unfortunately closing here or there, and we're losing a few properties, to have the ability to open up a room on the Strip. Like, people are really jazzed about coming aboard. Like, that's something they really wanted to be a part of. So we got the best of the best. We got to cherry pick the people that to put in these positions. So I got lucky in that sense. There's really only a few properties that really kind of have it down as far as the mechanics of these guys and their skill level. And those, you'd be surprised when it's out of season. If you live in Vegas, those games kind of hop around town. Aria, South Point, Bellagio's game is a little bigger. It plays bigger as far as mix, but ours is, like I mentioned, it's the first stepping stone if you want to get out there and learn new games. It's $4, $8, so it won't break your pocketbook if you want to get out there and learn a little bit.
This is funny, but I literally used to, on Wednesdays, I used to live in downtown, which I also would like to talk a little bit more about, but
Sure.
On Wednesdays at the D, they were training. There was like a poker school that would be training in some of the mixed games, and they would have tournaments for $20 if you wanted to play with the new dealers. And it was some of the most fun poker I've ever had. And also I had no idea what I was doing really either. So it was a great, and it's just like a fun, it's just fun sometimes, right?
That's what it's supposed to be about. I think that's what we're all getting away from. It'll be really easy to kind of pitch that the next year or two, because people have had a good year to kind of think about what they want to play and where they want to go, and people are relearning where they want to give their business. It should be fun. This whole thing should be fun. I know we've kind of moved on from the game theory to now the solvers, and we just need to go back to some places where it is just a good time, right? And it's been fun so far. I just like the group overall, the players, the dealers, our staff. I've got no complaints, and we're getting a lot of kind of, like I mentioned, kind of targeted volume throughout the week. We'll have games that come in on Friday for mix. We'll have 1-1 PLO, just really low limit, pot limit Omaha, because it's a scary game for most people. That comes in on most Tuesdays. So we want to kind of create more of a personalized experience, I guess. So the best way to do that is to just kind of figure out a way to kind of corral all these people and put them in there on one night, one day, one time. It's going to be there. That game's always going to be going on that specific night. So it's been great so far. Been simple.
I love that. And so obviously, in terms of attracting the tourists and the people who live in these states, such as myself, where it's really more difficult to find poker, we come to Vegas so we can find the games. And sometimes when you're just meandering, around the Strip or meandering around these casinos and hotels, they will tuck the poker rooms like under the escalator, like near the hot dog stand somewhere, where it is so hard to even find, you know, the poker rooms. And I can remember several times actually, I won't name any names, but they're closed now anyways. But you guys have really made a concerted effort to make this available and accessible to people who are cruising along, and also maybe for people who are more comfortable or who are more often playing some of the, you know, table games, or are more interested in sports betting.
Sure. I mean, I've got to kind of give the hats off to the executive team, the people that brought me on when I first accepted the spot. They just made it clear that, you know, even though, like you mentioned, it's kind of a, you know, the unsung hero as far as the department's own property. They knew that even though it represented only a small chunk of the bottom line for the property, that it needed to be in the forefront. We had to do it big if we were going to do it at all. Not necessarily the amount of space that we were given, but just the amount of attention and the attentiveness and support from everyone. The marketing team also, especially, hats off to them as well. They work really well to partner up with me and figure out what the appropriate response is for every different campaign or different you know, promotion that we have coming down the pipe. So I greatly appreciate their support. We couldn't have done this without their attentiveness. So they're making it easier on me, trust me. It's an excellent group. It's different when you're part of a company that's only a property or two at best. If I need to speak to someone you know, important about something, they're just right around the corner. I have regular conversations with our vice president and our general manager. So it's a different vibe from you know, much larger corporation. So it's more of a you know, family type environment.
Well, you briefly touched on, and this is something, you know, as a member of the poker community, I would argue that in terms of incentives and things, quite frequently the poker community in the gambling world is not really considered, or not. I have lots of friends who play professional blackjack, and they're getting all the, you know, comps and all the things, but you know, I still think there's room for some promotions and some different things to attract our, you know, poker players and to give back to our poker playing people. So what are you guys doing on that front?
Sure. I mentioned, you know, even apart from promotions, that the whole thing is, you know, with us, it's a lot more targeted. We're picking select days and select times to bring to attract different crowds. It's you know, even though this is a brand new room and there was lots of traffic at first, you know, we're in the challenges that we have to meet is that we're a little bit far north. Like it's similar to Wynn years ago when they opened. They were the last kind of, you know, walkable property on the strip. No one made it over here. No one made it in this direction. And now they're kind of the pinnacle as far as, you know, how a room is supposed to operate. I try to model a lot of the things that I'm doing after what they're doing, because it's just such an amazing room. So there's just so many more things happening on this end of the strip now. It's going to make it easier and easier to start adding some more fun incentives. But I would say that down to just some of the small stuff, like the finishes are just unmatched in the room, from the tables to the layouts to the you know, my VP and a few others spent some time testing out the chairs that we bought personally. They flew upstate and actually sat in the chairs I mean, little things that you wouldn't anticipate you know, someone putting together a room would have to do. But they made sure that every single small convenience was covered, from the small stuff like the proximity to the entrances and exits and bathrooms, which is obviously big with some people, to some of the frills like the 16 by 9 foot video wall, which I'm going to be proud of until I'm long gone. It's really, really cool. That's a really kind of interesting addition. But they just made sure not to overlook any small addition. The restaurant options, that we have a sportsbook kiosk that's right next to the room where players can sign up and place wagers on the mobile app. So also convenient. But you know, promotions kind of the ebb and flow of that is that's a lot more difficult. But keeping my ear to the players is huge. Like it's too oftentimes that you know, people kind of overlook these small conversations with guests when they add their opinions on what they might like to see over the next few weeks or few months. But that stuff is huge. That's how you develop these long-lasting relationships with these guys, is let them know that I'm going to take in the information you've given me, try to cultivate something that you guys would like, and then actually put it in motion. Like they don't see that. They don't see that ever. So you know, that's huge. Lending my ear to the players. So we'll continue to do that. But as far as right now, I love the success that South Point was getting with their huge free roll that they were offering the last few months. So we're doing something similar, only on like a weekly basis, because I know that there's some players out there that are missing, grinding out hours towards some sort of a giveaway. So that's something that we instituted over the last few months. I'm stoked about that. Plenty of things on the horizon, but I'm more proud of the small finishes that I mentioned about the room. That's a lot more impressive to me.
And those are the things that really make a huge difference. Even when I
Sure.
obviously talk to tons of players all the time about what their favorite rooms are and what they enjoy the most. And one of the things I consistently hear, for example, about like Playground in Canada, everyone just says the chairs are really comfortable, which seems like such a small thing. But when you're sitting somewhere, sometimes for 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 hours a day, it's like it's like the quintessential point of what makes a good room. And, I think something else that obviously attracts players to different properties, and also as someone who's traveled the circuit to many, many different rooms, is like what's available also in the casino, such as food options, different like places and things, restaurants they can go to when they want to take breaks, etc. What do you guys have at the Sahara?
Oh, it's another exciting part about working for this company. And I know that you mentioned you were excited about going back to the Sahara, because it's such that old school type Vegas atmosphere. It's a property that's been around for decades, so excited to be a part of that. But one thing that's awesome about them is that our owner and the executive team, they haven't taken their foot off the gas during this entire time, from reopening the property to all the challenges from 2020. They have been making small additions and large ones to the property, while everyone else has been kind of figuring out how to just make it out alive. So I really appreciate that part of being able to tell people and be proud of some of the newer additions that are coming up. And it's immense. The Magic Mike kind of arena, I guess you could say, is going to be put up pretty soon. So there's going to be some serious buzz around that. And I appreciate that the thoroughfare of people has to go right past the poker room to get there, which is awesome. So, ladies upstairs to the Magic Mike Theater, or men, and, they drop off their significant other there at the poker rooms. It'll be amazing. So we're excited about that. That'll happen at some point after the summer. But a lot of new restaurants going up on property as well. There's a Chickies and Pete's, which is an East Coast chain. It's sounds like a great place to get like a crab roll or something similar. It's like a East Coast. I guess I think it's Philadelphia based or somewhere out in that area. But if you take this one elevator right on property, you can see that in the middle of the property, they're putting up something amazing. They're putting down a brand new pool with just all the frills, cabanas, and bungalows, and and an area for some potential like a club scene, live music, things like that. So it's awesome to see that he's got that amount of confidence. So I say I mean Alex Morello is our owner. Just that much confidence in the property and what we're doing to continue to put down some awesome things, and just be prepared for when all these people start to get ushered back to Vegas and tourism picks up. We'll be ready when everyone else is playing catch up. So that part's exciting.
And something you sort of briefly mentioned, and this is something that I'm super familiar with at this point. I moved to Vegas in 2010, and I moved onto Fremont and Las Vegas Boulevard, which even at that time I thought was the coolest place in Vegas. And it just continued to grow, evolve, shift. It is, I think, Fremont obviously is very walkable, but things just started to pop up along, the strip all the way down, cool restaurants. You've got the pawn shop, which everybody loves to stop by and pop into. And now we've seen a few other, casinos and areas that I think really people thought that it was dead for a long time. And now even, Tony Hsieh, I think, came in and invested like billions of dollars in all these restaurants. And so how do you see Sahara sort of fitting into this new landscape, really?
Oh, that part's great. I hope that momentum continues. Like you mentioned, all the new additions and changes, that part's really cool. Circa, which is an amazing property, just went up in that area not too long ago, and good response from that. The one that I'm really waiting on that's going to kind of change the poker landscape again and shift some things. There's a 30 table room, supposed to be a luxurious room. It's completion, I think sometime in June or July, but really soon. So that's
Resorts World.
Right, exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. So excited for that change, because that's going to push that much more poker traffic and people towards this north side of the strip. And we're about a good quarter mile, half mile from that property. So that'll be fun. They're going to start to utilize the same poker software we use, which is huge on the East Coast and the South and in some parts in the Northwest, but not so much in Vegas. So I'm stoked that they're going to go ahead and kind of, help us carry the torch for that, for that piece of that application. That part's great. It's going to drive a lot more traffic to us as well. So yeah, it's gonna shift again, just like it has in the past. People are gonna maybe stop us centering themselves around that Tropicana block right there around Aria and Bellagio and Harrah's and Caesars and all those other properties, and kind of shift their way up here. So we knew that that was going to happen at some point. It just had to kind of wait it out. And things are getting busier and busier as time goes on. I can't wait for June. Should be a blast.
Me too, which is actually, I don't know what you're able to share with us at this point, but this is something we've been speculating about on the podcast pretty regularly, is that we have this gap now in the summer, which is formerly WSOP but now not, and yet there still seems to be the same drive and the same desire to go to Vegas and be in Vegas for the summer for a lot of people. And so we're wondering what a lot of the poker rooms have in mind or in store for us this summer. Any secrets on the horizon you can tell us about?
Oh boy, maybe some tidbits about us specifically. Of course, I know that people are going to have that strange feeling where there was something they were supposed to do in June. It's like they were supposed to pack up and come here. But honestly, I can't wait for the series to move on from being in the summer. I don't know why. I guess it just kind of naturally, kind of organically happened that way. But I'm okay with the series being stuck in September, October forever. As someone who's lived in Vegas for about 10 years, just like yourself, it's murder during the summer. I can't wait for it to move to different times, and I think that actually changed things for kind of our slower time of year, which is kind of that November, December area. So I'm stoked about that. But some of the other properties are running some things. I know that Venetian is running a summer event, and Wynn is going to push forward with something. So maybe not be the same as events of the past, but we're all going to have to adapt a little bit. We've kind of unofficially partnered with a major tournament series. It's not something that's kind of it's going to take some time to put together. It's a big undertaking, so it's not something that I can officially announce. But as the weeks and months roll by, we'll be able to kind of elaborate on that. But I knew immediately once the room went up that the room can't be anything without a large tournament series. There's even if it's just a couple weeks out of the year. I want to figure something out to bring some new people and some new additions to the room to see if we can get some new people in to enjoy the room. So excited about that. Like I said, it's a large project, so that's coming soon. We're going to do some other small things during the summer. Hopefully we'll be able to announce that pretty soon. The success from some of the stuff that the other properties are running is kind of evident that people are ready for some things. So we're going to do some little small tournament things here or there, more than likely in June. But yeah, can't wait.
I cannot wait either. I am actually super excited. Of course, the PokerNews audience knows that I am very much with child, but I do intend to get out there for the WSOP. At a bare minimum, I will certainly be there for the main event and likely some before that. And I will 1,000,000% be coming to the Sahara to check out the room. It sounds exactly my speed, exactly like the kind of place that I want to be and that I want to call home when I'm in Vegas. And I just so appreciate you, Steven, taking the time. I know you're obviously a very busy guy, lots of things on your plate. And before I let you go, is there anything else that you need to tell us? And then before you go, you also need to tell us where we can follow so we can find out about when tournament series get launched, when you guys are just looking for people to fill out a game or whatever. What's your guys' socials?
Oh, sure, of course. Definitely visit Sahara Las Vegas, either at Sahara Las Vegas on Twitter or SaharaLasVegas.com. A lot of the interesting stuff that we do with sort of our, unofficial and official game host, some of the things that we do are going to be on my own personal Twitter or my Facebook. So definitely hunt me down too as well. Friend me, anyone in the poker industry, I'll accept, because I want to get as much information as possible and have some people in here that haven't had a chance to give us a shot. So,
People need a person sometimes that they can go to. It sounds ridiculous, but it's like, I know enough now tournament directors and poker managers and people where, just having a point of contact sometimes is a great relief for poker players and for people in the poker industry in general.
We're going to put out
a guy who puts himself out there.
Of course. No, of course. Yeah. We're going to put out a lot of our information on Poker Atlas as well. So definitely download that app and check out what the room has as far as up-to-date offers and tournaments, promotions and things like that. But yeah, of course. I knew that if I was going to, get this fun new project off the ground, I need to make myself pretty available. So yeah, anyone who wants to follow me or, send a request to me, I'm game.
Well, Steven Pique, you guys get out there, do what you need to do, stand outside of his house if you want to. He's putting it out there. Just kidding. Don't do that. And don't say that I said to do that. But poker operations manager at the Sahara, I really appreciate you taking the time. And I am just so looking forward to seeing what coverage PokerNews is going to have from, I know that our social media guy, Jesse, has been going down there pretty frequently and doing some video content, kind of like checking out the scene. I can't wait to get there. I can't wait to see it, play it. I love the idea of some big tournament series, but I'm also a huge fan of smaller tournaments. Us little buy-in people, I love that you still are supporting us. And yeah, I'm just so looking forward to seeing how this plays out for you guys.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for having me. Greatly appreciate it.
Dirty and unsanitary? Elite Chip Care's ultrasonic cleaners kill bacteria and pathogens without using chemicals. Protect your team from potentially hazardous chemicals, UV, and gases. For daily sanitizing of your chips, our laboratory oven will eradicate most viruses using only heat. Up to 2,500 chips sanitized in just 3 minutes. Avoid the reoccurring expense of costly chemicals, UV bulbs, and gases. Safe, inexpensive, and sustainable. Visit EliteChipCare.com.
Well, as soon as I was done conducting that interview last night, I was all up in the Sahara, Googling the images of the poker room and talking to my husband. I'm actually really excited to check that room out and to explore some of their smaller stakes options. Even this 1-1 PLO game, I'm like, okay, I want to play PLO. I want to do more of it in a real live setting, but in a space where it could be in my budget. So you guys definitely want to check that out if you head to the City of Sin. And we're going to do a little talking about the GG Spring Festival. There's a lot of newsworthy stories coming out of the GG Spring Festival, which is no surprise. And the first story comes from Lev Gottlieb, who I feel like he's been crushing everything basically lately. It's a name we've been running into several times in the last few podcasts. Jeff, do you want to, on your 2x speed, talk a little bit about this one?
Yeah, 2x speed. Let's do it. Lev, leave me alone. Gottlieb has won not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 GG Spring Festival events. His latest title comes in the 5K Bounty Hunters main event. He beats Chris Klodnicki heads up for a total prize of more than $316,000. I mean, this dude is absurd. He won the 10K Super Millions to start the series for $586K, then won the 10K Super Tuesday for more than $320,000, then won the 10K PLO / No Limit Omaha High Roller for about $200,000. I mean, this is one of the best online series performances, if not the best online series performance of all time. Lev Gottlieb, if you don't know that name, get to know it. 4 GG Spring Festival titles. I was unfamiliar with his name coming into this. I will be very familiar with his name after this.
I say all this comes on the heels of last summer, the GG Poker WSOP bracelet events. He actually won one. That was when he first got on everybody's radar. He won event number 43. It was a $10,000 short deck, no limit hold'em championship, 130 entry field. He ended up taking that down for $276,000 and a bracelet, right? So that's great, but there's a lot of bracelet winners who win a bracelet and then go on to do nothing else in their poker playing career. I'm pointing
especially
at
in short deck.
well, yeah, in short deck for sure, but that's not the case with Lev Gottlieb. Obviously, here he is crushing the Spring Festival, and not much is known about him, right? I actually was listening to Donnie Peters and Lance Bradley over at the Fives on their podcast, and those guys
Fuck Donnie Peters.
those guys are you're being sarcastic there again, I hope, right? We love Donnie, the old host of this very show. So
yeah, but we used to say fuck Johnny Peters when he was the host of the show. It's like an homage, you know?
Gotcha. So the longtime listeners will understand. The new listeners just think that you legitimately hate Donnie Peters. But no, they were in the same boat as a lot of us. Like, who is this guy? We don't know a lot about him, right? We know that he's crushing it. We know obviously he's very talented. He's a bracelet winner, that he's a 4-time Spring Festival champ, but we don't really know anything else about him. How old is he? Is he a family man? Does he work? Is he just a poker pro? Is he an amateur? Like, we don't know these sort of things. And I know that PokerNews has reached out to GG Poker and say, hey, we want to get to know this guy. Can you put us in touch? Can you see if he's interested? And who knows? We'll see if that leads anywhere. It'd be great to either feature him in an article on the website or even have him here on the podcast, because as Jeff said, he's in the midst of one of the greatest performances in online tournament history.
And speaking of names we all know and recognize, but relatively notoriously not interested in the media, is Mikita Badziakouski, who just won the 25K Sunday 5 million for $1.1 million. Sometimes, you know, we get in these tournament series and you just start like, oh, it was the 10K, he won 300K, it was this. But when you still, for me, it's still like when you say that someone won like $1.1 million, it still hits hard. Like, it still hits really hard for me. And Mikita Badziakouski, obviously a huge sicko. I'm sure 1.1 million is just whatever it is for him. But this one was particularly a redeeming moment because he had just finished runner up to Ronnie Kaiser in event 49. And in this one, he was up against Ronnie Kaiser again, but who ultimately went down in 8th place. I have a special place in my heart for Ronnie Kaiser, who was one of these sort of high stake badasses when I very first came in to poker. And I always love seeing those guys and those names that were, you know, doing the 4 or 5 bet 6 betting shoves, like who were crazy and didn't care about money in like 2010, still popping into the 25Ks and dominating and crushing. Although when I look at Mikita Badziakouski, he looks like a baby. Do you guys know how old he is?
I mean, no, I don't know how old he is. I don't know how. I mean, he probably doesn't listen to this podcast. If he does, I'm sure he doesn't. He's not going to be loving to hear you that you think he looks like a baby, but
like a little boss baby. You know,
boss baby.
He's definitely a boss baby.
I mean, as far as poker nicknames go, Boss Baby is not too bad. Boss Baby Badziakouski.
Yeah.
Brent Hanks calls him the milkman, Mikita the milkman Badziakouski, because you know he's just always milking you, taking your chips. I guess, I don't know. Brent has weird nicknames, but that's what we've gone with.
I like it. I think that fits and makes sense. And obviously he's just a name that we continue to see over and over and over again, and we will continue to see over and over again. And he's clearly playing everything. He's playing all the tournaments right now. He has no shortage of buy-ins. I'm sure we will see him at the top of more of these high roller fields in the coming weeks as we wrap out some of these other tournaments. I think we've got a couple more stories. Yeah, let's just go ahead. Yeah,
I want to tell you about a GG Poker event that I personally covered. I was doing the live updates for it, and It's really noteworthy because of what I witnessed happen. So Connor Drinan was victorious. It was the medium buy-in, $400 headliner. It was a PLO no limit tournament, and by that it was pot limit Omaha pre-flop, and then turned into no limit Omaha after the flop. Right, so a lot of action, a lot of big pots. It had 1,962 unique players, rebuy 709 times, so 2,671 entry field. It was big, $1 million prize pool. And on day 2, it was something like 451 players came back, and they were going to battle down to a winner. And so that's what I was covering. I was covering day 2 of this. And fast forward, 6-7 hours, we're at the final table. It's a pretty stacked final table. You had the aforementioned Connor Drinan, you had Japan's Kozai Ichinose, you had Mark Barrente, Ami Bar. So some names I recognized. I was pretty excited. And it got to 3-handed play, and Connor Drinan lost this massive pot. And he was left with 1 big blind, right? And the other 2 players had him just absolutely crushed. But given the nature of this game, big pots happen. There can be big swings. And I am not even joking. By the time, so he was left with like 2 million, which was 1 big blind at the time. And by the time I finished writing the hand, I pulled the table back up, and he had worked it back up to like 22 million, which was, 11 big blinds. And 10 minutes later, he had all the chips. It was just this incredible comeback, this incredible run that happened in 10 to 15 minutes, from 1 big blind to winning the tournament for what was it, $127,000. It was one of those, like, what did I just witness? Like, it happened so fast. This was incredible. And it was just it was I've been covering a lot of poker tournaments across my career, and this is by far the fastest comeback I've ever seen. Now, granted, it is online, and it isn't a very rare game. You don't often see a lot of pot limit Omaha games that turn into no limit after the flop. But even so, it was pretty cool to witness, and congratulations to Connor Drinan on winning that GG at Spring Festival title.
That's something I love about Connor. He's not afraid to gamble. And he is not afraid to throw some cocktails in the mix every now and then. And he's just one of those like boss badasses. I remember him playing a 10K high roller at the EPT in Barcelona. And basically everyone was just like sitting around waiting for him to probably win. Maybe not, heads up, anything can happen. But basically he was just like, I'm over this. Like, let's just move this thing right along, and just started going all in every single hand. And it was just a beautiful thing to watch, as I was fantasizing about crawling into my hotel room bed. I was like, who I like? Connor Drinan. And I still do. This guy's like a boss badass. Well, I wanted to ask you guys the Scoop most recent, I shouldn't say that, probably 80 things have happened since then. One of the most recent Scoop winners was WSOP main event champ Damian Salas for about 260K. And I wanted to get your guys' thoughts, because obviously we've seen his play a lot more now. The first time he was at the main event final table, I want to say he busted in 7th or something along those lines. And I think most people just considered him a very lucky businessman who just happened to make it to the final table. And he's actually had several scores, I think, since becoming the champion. And I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. Let's start with Jeff, since you were there for the main event and all that.
Yes.
You were too, Chad, sorry, but we saw Jeff's face more. He's more connected. What are your thoughts on this Damian Salas, man? Is he like a legit poker player now? What's up?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you guys might remember I have bashed Damian Salas plenty in my day on the PokerNews podcast for his exceptionally slow play. Got a chance to meet him during the main, played a little faster during the main. He was really nice during the main. So, okay, maybe I'm coming around on Damian Salas. The 2017 champ, Scott Blumstein, calls Damian Salas an elite poker player. And it's hard to argue that. It was easy, Sarah, to say in 2017, lucky businessman gets to the final table. We see it all the time. And then he makes the final table of this 2020 main event. And then he beats a final table in a 10K high roller in a Scoop event. That final table consists of Christian Rudolph, of Thomas Mulacher, of Victor Malinowski, that's Limitless, of Ape Styles, that's John Van Fleet, of Christoph Vogelsang, of Talal Shakurchi, of Linus. I mean, that's one of the best wins of Scoop. That's one of the most stacked final tables of Scoop. Salas puts up results time and time and time again, and he's entering the conversation of, listen, this guy is a very, very good poker player.
I agree with Jeff. His resume speaks for itself. Winning the WSOP main event last year, when making the final table a few years before that. He's got multiple six-figure online scores, including this one. Yeah, he was billed as an Argentinian attorney. I mean, I don't know if he's practicing or anything like that anymore. I highly doubt it. He seems to travel a lot for poker, be playing a lot online, but who exactly knows? He's just, I think he is an elite player, and he's the sort of player that we want to keep an eye on whenever he's at a stop. I know a lot of people are going to say, he's the 2020 main event champion with an asterisk or what have you. And I get that, but hey, look, Johnny Moss, we all consider him a 3-time WSOP champion, but his first one came via vote, right? They asked the players who the best player was, and they all voted for themselves. So they said, all right, vote again, and you can't vote for yourself. And then Johnny Moss won it. So you want to talk about asterisks? They are certainly, precedent for that in WSOP history, right? And so it's just one of those things. I'll report on him as the 2020 World Series of Poker main event champion. And that's how I look at it. Yeah, it was a little bit different. It was a strange year given the pandemic, but the WSOP found a way to hold an event to keep tradition alive. And his banner will be hung in the hallways of the Rio come this fall. And I'm looking forward to seeing it and, maybe getting to know him even more.
And I will say Joseph Hebert was a very difficult story to contend with, with everything with his mother and his sort of just candor and vulnerability. From a media perspective, before Damian arrived in Vegas, I was just kind of like, man, if Joseph doesn't win this, it's just going to be such a boner for everyone. But actually, as we conducted the interviews and, I think Damian Salas, the first time he was at the main event final table, was just clearly very much overwhelmed and also very uncomfortable speaking English. And in this second spot, he was able to get a translator, which I think, even though he didn't always need it, I think it just made him feel a lot more comfortable to be himself. And he exposed himself in a way that I really did not anticipate. And he cried and shared just like how important this was to him and how this actually was his dream. This was not like a side hustle for him, but to win the World Series of Poker was the dream of his life. And I was so rooting for Joseph. And then when I started interviewing Damian, I was like, okay, I'm kind of surprised how much I'm also rooting for Damian now. So on the emotional level, also I think he resonated with me, at least in a way that I didn't expect. And I do think he's someone worth rooting for and someone who was a very worthy champion for us and as an ambassador from South America, which is good to have, because as we all know, there's still a very burgeoning and there's a lot of opportunity in South America in the poker industry. Now, this is a relatively short episode. You guys know I'm busy partying with my grandma. We will be back the first week of May. And also for our audience, I don't want you guys to miss or forget that on May 4th is going to be the second edition of the PokerNews debate. This will go down at 1 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Pacific time. The topic is going to be, do ambassadors for unregulated sites have a moral responsibility? Essentially, do they need to make sure that their followers and audience understand that it may or may not be safe? And this is going to be, I think it's an interesting topic for right now. There's definitely a lot of, we've seen some really big players. Chris Moneymaker, for example, now is a sponsor for, or is sponsored by an unregulated site. And so I think it's something worth talking about. And so you guys can tune into that via our Facebook, via our Twitch, via our YouTube. You'll be able to find the links on our Twitter, basically just on May 4th. May the 4th be with you. I hope you can remember that. The second edition of the PokerNews debate. Chad, you are heading to the MSPT the week that this podcast is going down. What do you have after that? Anything exciting?
Yeah, I'm going to be at the MSPT in San Diego at, I think it's Saquon Casino for about almost 2 weeks. Like, they're doing a regional event, which is the smaller buy-in, and one weekend, and then the following weekend, their $1,100 main event. It's looking like it's going to be quite the turnout, actually. I didn't know what to expect. It's the first time they were going to be there. I've been to a lot of first-time MSPT stops, And, you know, I always taper my expectations, but based upon what I've seen on social media, it does seem like a lot of people are planning to make the trip. I already know that the hotels are either sold out or quite busy in that area. And so I'm definitely looking forward to being there, to being on the ground, to be doing the updates for Poker News. And so that is my most immediate plans. And then flirting with the idea, and we'll see how the MSPT goes in San Diego. But when I return, the next stop after that for the MSPT is in Deadwood, South Dakota, which just so happens to be one of my favorite spots. And I might go to play that one if all goes well. We'll see. But there's just so much history there. I've been there before. I love the town. It's there in the Black Hills. There's just something special about a place where you can go into a saloon with sawdust on the floor and sit down and play poker and know that Wild Bill Hickok was, you know, that history, Dead Man's Hand, where he was killed by Jack McCall, is within the 1 block radius of where you're sitting. I don't know, just so much history. I love it. I highly recommend it as kind of like a destination poker stop for everybody to experience at least once.
Oh, that sounds so cool. I'm so on board with that. Jeff, what do you have first week of May? What's going on with you? He's getting back.
We wrap up coverage of Lone Star main event on Tuesday, May, whatever that May is, before the 4th, be with you. And then I think I'm going to go see Chad in San Diego, California, and fire off on that MSPT main event. We have a couple of things in the works. I think Poker Go over the next couple months, and then it's World Series of Poker online time in July.
And
we're really in it, guys.
I'm sure we'll talk about it more in the next episode, but right now there's a big event going on down there at the Seminole Hard Rock in South Florida. They're putting up some big numbers in their prelims, and it's going to culminate with a $3,500 WPT main event, $2 million guarantee. So lots of stories already coming out of that stop. We can get into that, the next episode, but yeah, they're still continuing to crush down there at the Seminole Hard Rock.
Yeah, I saw on Tony B's social media's just crazy numbers, and I'm just super happy to see poker is most certainly not dead. It's alive and very, very much well, and probably in one of the best states it's been in a long time. So I'm happy to say that. I'm happy to be a part of this industry, and yeah, we've got like a kick-ass 2021 ahead of us. I don't even know how we've already gotten through this much of it, but we appreciate you guys listening to the show. As we said last week, if you leave us a 5-star review, we will do our best to get you something. Jeff, you missed it. We've got a couple of new reviews, and they did specifically say they like you also. So you can just take that to the bank and cash it. And we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Be sure to join us for the Poker News debate. Deuces.